Hello, and welcome back to the Check and Chat podcast. We've checked into the pit stop, and now we're chatting all things Amazing Race. I'm your host, Matt, and today we're talking about season 37, episode 7, our first time in Bulgaria. Very exciting. We're in the rural countryside, and I have a lot of feelings from this episode this week, and a lot of them are negative feelings. And I'm going to get through to it because this episode made me feel quite a few ways. There was ebbs and flows, ups and downs, but we'll talk about that, as you know I will. So, without further ado, actually, I haven't got a long intro this week. Shocking, I know. Let's get straight into the episode. Before I start off, I just want to say Happy Easter if you're celebrating it. Many Easter jubilations for all my Easter celebrating people out there. If you don't, if you're not celebrating Easter, I don't know if spring break's on right now, so happy spring break. I know I've got 2 weeks off work, so I'm good, I'm happy. Anyway, to the episode. Now we're past the halfway point with episode 7. We're in the second half of the season now. Half the teams have now been eliminated, so the finish line is now slowly getting into sight. And we start off in Dubai with Jack and Carson, their first leave at 12:34 p.m. So they obviously have had like a 24-hour pit stop here. And so you know what this means. It's time for Jack and Carson's Time of Foes. This is usually the time of week where I talk a lot of gay things. Now, I don't have that many points this week, so straight, you can stay here. This week, I want to quickly first mention about the fashion because you know I had a big thing about it last week. I had to bring back its fashion haute couture. Carson is wearing a better ensemble this week, though he is wearing beige. I don't know if it's cream or beige. It looks more beige to me, but no one should ever wear the color of beige. No, ma'am, because it just, especially with our skin tone, it just drowns us out. That's just a no. Okay. No one should ever wear color beige. Anyway, in last week's podcast, I was spookily accurate. I was so spooky because I was like, when we were talking about the dancing in the desert camp, I was like, yes, dance like you're on Dance Moms, dance like you think you're JoJo Siwa. And apparently what I did notice in the damn background was Jack and Carson doing the apparent JoJo Siwa karma dance, which I have no idea what that is. I'm not with the TikTok trends. I've only just learned what a brat summer was this week, okay? I'm very late to the trend. There's another TikTok trend, which I've only just learned about this week, which I'll reference later on. I've only just learned about this, which was very spooky. But also, talking about JoJo Siwa, she was the favourite on Celebrity Big Brother over here in the UK. However, it's gone downhill after she decided to urinate in the cat litter tray in the bathroom. Yes, you heard me right. It was part of a task where they had to pretend to be cats. But her and her best friend in the house, Chris, took it a bit too far. And so that's plummeted their popularity a bit in the house. But I just wanted to give you that update on JoJo in the house. But also, Jan Carson says, they ate camel. What in the I'm a Celebrity is going on? How very I'm a Celebrity of you eating camel? But then we also learn here that apparently on the way, because the next morning we saw them on the camels and we got the Han and Holden backstory. To get to the camels, they went on these jeeps, and there is photo evidence of these jeeps, behind the scenes photos. But apparently, there was actually a bit of backstory from Carson here about his mom and how there's to also being afraid of heights, and so they didn't include it in edit because sort of like it didn't amount to anything at this moment. Because Carson, didn't have to overcome anything on this leg or do the skydiving, so it didn't come to fruition. But I like how it was explained here. And I believe that the Jeeps possibly could be part of the memory change, allegedly. I hear allegedly. It's not percent, allegedly. But apparently also Josiah's the camel was called Fergie, and it was loving the boys. And I just wanted the voice to like, oh yes, we were going GLAM, we're in the first class, up in the sky, sing glamorous, like the flop, the flop, I'm more excited now. Yeah. But then we also ran Liberty. So on the way, they were all signing up for the skydive, and Alyssa and Josiah, they slowed down, because they were hoping then they slowed down because they're like, oh, we're all going to be on the same flight anyway. You know, what's the point? They were going to save our energy, and that led to Jack Carson getting ahead and them getting in one of the first two positions, which was key if you wanted to go for the fast forward. So if Alyssa and Josiah didn't slow down there, that the leg outcome could have been a bit different here. That would have been interesting. See these little moves, I tell you. The boys are still excited about this Alaskan cruise. As you know, last week I'm not excited, mainly because I don't like the cold. It's Alaska now. No offense to my Alaskan fans here, but explain to me anything interesting in Alaska apart from Sarah Palin living in Wasilla. Okay, but the boys were still very excited about the Alaskan cruise. I'm like, in this leg, like, the price for this leg was better, and I feel offended that they're giving I feel like they're giving our boys the bad prizes. I'm just saying. And the last thing is that Chef Gustav is not Jack's type, because they were talking about how Han was lost in his Chef Gustav's blue eyes. But Jack finds the blue eyes quite sinister. Now I like the blue eyes. Don't get me wrong, but I like them if they're in good lighting. Like if there's a ring light, or they're like just in really good line for them to pop out, or they're just not good for me. So I'm half and half in that part. But anyway, that's Tobin Photos for this week. See, and if you notes this week, so they're told to fly to Sofia, Bulgaria, and apparently Bulgaria laid claim to inventing yogurt, which I didn't know apparently. And Phil says he wants to spice the race up a little bit with some self-driving. And to fair, they need to self-drive a lot more. And so the boys are manifesting that it might be an advantage to self-driving in a completely new place. I don't think that would be the case. We'll get to that very soon. Han and Holden leave at 1:16 p.m. So about only 40 minutes behind the boys. So the fast forward wasn't that much of an advantage there time-wise. With Alyssa and Josiah then leaving 3 minutes later. And then, so, okay, this is one of my new favorite things now is Josiah. I'm sort of lobbying it. I'm starting a petition for him to get like either like a weekly slot at like the Comedy Cellar, or like a stand-up place, or like a HBO Comedy Central, like half-hour special. Because come on, every week he's just being hilarious, over giving these dad jokes, which I know to go, but he's making fun of himself, and that's like, if you make fun of yourself, that is like good comedy. Really impressed me, and like he does it every week. And if you're not seeing that, his latest thing. So Mark was one of the dancers on the season finale of Drag Race this past Friday, and was trying to recreate some of his dancing during the numbers. So, and we saw Mark was there quite a bit. He was there through the original numbers, and also he was there during the Liza number as well, I believe. I don't know if he was in the Rue number. I sort of skipped the Rue number, but he was there a lot during the episode, so that was funny. So I am rooting for that, and petitioning that special. So Josiah, he is like, oh, Sophia, Bulgaria. That sounds like that could be a name of a person. Sophia. I was like, oh. Sofia Vergara, so that won't work. I like how I mix it with Sofia Vergara. That's just funny. Shout out to Sofia Vergara. Mark then next leave at 1:27, and Mark doesn't know where Bulgaria is. We'll teach him. We'll give him a map. Okay, we'll locate it. We'll locate it on a map for him. We'll then see Jonathan and Anna. They leave 8 minutes after them, and Jonathan is not happy being in the middle of the pack. We're starting to see in this episode, if he's not at the top, he is not happy one bit. Look, Anna is always smiling. Isn't she just great? She just smiles the whole time. I love Anna here. Melinda and Erica, they leave a minute after them. When they hear it's self-driving, they're not best pleased on having to self-drive. There should be a little picture screen grab on if you're watching the YouTube version now of their reaction, which I just found hilarious. But to be fair, for the most part, the driving works out. It worked out okay for the most part. And last to leave is Nick and Mike at 1:37. And so it was actually a much closer foot race than what it appeared to be, because between fourth and seventh, there was only 10 minutes. So that was pretty close. Not as close as what we've had in the previous six, like all those six teams at the matter once. But it still was close. And like Jack and Carson leaving at 12:34. So that's just over an hour between these teams. I actually thought there might have been a bit more spread out. But no, it was actually quite close enough. Well, close enough I thought it was going to be. And so the boys are hoping to get first again. They say it's every week, and we know it's not going to be true. And that they are hope to make as little mistakes as possible. And so they're all on the same flights, whatever. And are we ever going to get a long intro again? Are we going to be stuck with this short intro for the rest of the season? I think we might. So teams get to Bulgaria and the dog to drive to the village of Negoshevo to find the next team. And they've been provided with a big map of Bulgaria. Le Bulgarie. I had to say it in French one time. It was just hurting me inside because I know the French. So Han and Holden, they've slight trouble getting out of the parking structure. So they needed to turn left. So they started to overtake teams that had stopped. But they realised that, they've made that the turn's a bit too tight. So Mark and Beck come back to help them. Also, at one point, Mark and Beck back into a list and Josiah, and I don't think even Mark apologises. I don't remember seeing that. I don't think he apologised. But anyway, and then I think he blamed Listen Josiah for just being there. But anyway, they help him out, and they all get out the parking structure. And this is no season 32. Remember when Will and James got stuck in the parking structure, and Leo and Alana helped them out, and then they arrive at the roadblock, and Leo just is being shady about them, and then they walk in the door. That was iconic. Nothing's like that here, because they're all like are separate until the detour. We then get Nick and Mike there, and they're saying as they're driving, it's giving them Italy vibes. And this is heartbreaking because we know that there's an Italy leg coming up. And so the fact that they're not making Italy is heartbreaking here. So we also found out that Holden went to military school. And so he can read maps very well. But Han is getting stuck reading it because Holden is driving, which I find interesting because I feel like they switch between who's driving. So I would have expected to be the other way around to start with. I'm just saying. Jack and Carson, they're getting the struggle bus here. And so they say, they're from NYC. So they don't have cars. They don't know anyone with cars. I know they take the subway a lot. And they're still my winners. Okay, there's no doubt about that. With even the best winning teams have their struggle moment, and their struggle legs. We've seen that when Mendes have these one or two struggle legs, but then they're back on form at the top. We've seen this before with lots of winning teams. But Carson, he stays very calm. He's being very demure, very mindful. I know I'm 7 months late on that TikTok as well. I've only just learned about it this week. So he was being very demure, very mindful. Jonathan and Anna, they get to the clear box first with Alyssa and Josiah just behind them. And it tells that teams have to gather 3 crates of apples and deliver as an offering to the Kukeri to get the next clue. Josiah, of course, as these are the jokes. He says that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree because his family used to collect apples. So that was funny. It did make me laugh. I will get into the tribe like I think it's like a sort of tribal or all this group's ensemble posing. But teens must now head to the Osositsa village library and search amongst the books for the next clue. And Alyssa and Giselle look like they're past Anna and Jonathan here, but then Anna and Jonathan overtake I think at some point because we lose Alyssa and Giselle at one point because they fall behind. I don't know why. I don't think we see why they get fall behind a little bit. Mark and Brett they get to the root info here, and Mark says it was like having Dojo Cat at Coachella, and I did not get the reference. I don't know what I must have been doing something else at the same time at that point because that reference I went over my head at that point. Like I didn't even see the reference for it at the bottom screen until I rewatched the episode back because I was like, everyone's after the episode's talking about Doja Cat. I'm like, why is everyone talking about Doja Cat? But I obviously missed this part in the episode originally when I watched it. It's also spooky that Coachella is happening right now, which is very spooky. A lot of spooky things happening. I don't know Doja Cat that well. All I know is the Say So song. You know, you wanna say so. You know, that's all I know. So I don't know Doja Cat's repertoire well. Um, but from the reference picture, I get it. And their outfits, it's given me, you know, the wigs like wigs on way. I don't know why. It's given me like a better version. I don't know if anyone's done it better, but I just remember when just in my head, J. Jolie did a lot of hair and she got red for it. That's what I remember, but like it's given me very Drag Race and I love it. Nick and Mike, they get slightly lost in natural directions. I think they took a wrong turning somewhere or missed the turning. And we go to also Jack and Carson. They're lost and Jack is looking pretty worried right now. He's getting really insane. I'm gonna get to more of it in a minute. Jonathan and Anna, and they get to the library first, and they find that it's a detour. It's haystack or woodstack. In haystack, teens had to search a haystack for a red and a white piece of yarn, a little bracelet called a martinista, or martinista, which they could exchange for the next clue. And each team had 3 haystacks to search through. And in woodstack, teens had to transport 200 kilograms of firewood using a wheelbarrow and backpack to a home of a local. He would tally them up before receiving the next clue. And like we're a fifth of the way through the episode and we're already at the detour. No one can ends. This is a long episode, let me tell you. Also, side note, the library, I liked how the clues are hidden in the books. I like that. Just a little bit. But we learn from Jack and Carson here that they're getting even more lost. And this is what I start to stress out. And I've told Carson this since the episode. This made me stress quite. I know I've cried a lot in the June season. I think in 2 of the episodes. That was because it was bringing me emotional trauma. But this one was from actual stress that my favorite team was going home. Okay, I'm not gonna mad it. So what happened was, and so what Jack has told us, and I know Jack said he was going to go into a bit more of this in their recap, but so what he says in short was that so they had to go onto the number 1 highway toward Burgas, okay, but they got on the A1 highway also to Burgas, which apparently 2 completely different highways in 2 completely different directions that do not intersect. Okay, so that's the confusion. Like I could tell the confusion, and it's not Jack's fault. And so he keeps on saying, "Oh, it's his fault," and he keeps on saying that he's dumb. Mr. Jack, you better stop this, Mister. Okay, or you're gonna get telling off from me next week. Okay, you are not dumb. And Garson said this as well, and I've seconded this motion officially, and I've got it notarized by a notary public. Okay, good. We then come back from commercial because it was like a dramatic moment to come back from the commercial. To go to commercial, we come back and then it's usually sorted. But they get directions as a hotel, and we learn that they're 3 hours behind. So me, stress crying even more. We then get to the detail Jonathan on arrive, and Jonathan's not sure where the marked parking is, and so they don't park in the marked parking area. They park just after, and that comes back to haunt them very shortly. We then get Mark and Brett they're driving, and Mark can't do his conversions from kilograms to pounds. And so Mark is just halving it. And Brett is like, isn't double, it's like 400 pounds. Brett is right. He's always right, isn't he? Like, Brett's just brilliant. And that's just pointing out we have got Jonathan and Anna. They see Mark and Brett. And Cohen goes a stand haystack. And Jonathan's already says that haystack was a mistake because the other teams have caught up. Anna instantly says sorry. Go why? Okay. Now, I'm gonna get a bit more into this because there's something I want to say about this. Welcome back. They choose Woodstack, as they know the history is race with anything involving hay. Also, hay's itchy. Girl, I'm saying like, I'm not doing anything itchy. No, ma'am. Jonathan is starting to get a bit more frustrated. The haystack. Couldn't they have split up and looked through different stacks? I think that's what I saw of a little bit of Jack and Carson when they ended up getting to haystack, and that they split up. So why didn't they split up? That's the thing I want to know about this. Anyway, Jonathan says this is a bad call on Anna's part, as she has physical strength. So why are we not doing the physical thing? Okay. Now there's been a lot of hate for Jonathan, and I've been sort of like I said, okay, it's not been that bad, but this is one thing I need to sort of get off my chest a bit. And it's not, I've sort of mentioned it, but this is like it keeps on happening. You are a team, okay? So why are you blaming all the decisions on Anna, saying it's a bad call repeatedly? And Anna comes out, and we'll get to in a minute because Anna says, why do you keep on saying it? Do you think it makes her feel good? Do you know these things that makes her want to continue more? Does it motivate her even more? I know you're upset because you're very competitive and you're seeing other teams, catching up, but that's natural in this race. Other teams are most likely going to catch up at some point. But like the fact here is that, I can tell there's love her, and like I don't know all their personal interactions, but it's just like sometimes like in a stressful situation just needs to chill out a little bit and just I think the less that is spoken the better and more focus. And I think Phil was trying to sort of because I'm not going to get to it, but Phil sort of tries to get into it at the mat, and I think he was trying to get to Jonathan sort of say, yes, I know I've been quite frustrated, but I feel like less talking is better and just to focus on the task. Then sort of keep saying like how bad Anna was at doing something and not making her feel good because that's not making good teamwork. I just wanted to put that because that's something I just really wanted to get off my chest. And I'm not saying Jonathan's a bad person here, not at all. I just think that that's an area of it, like improvement, and that's just what I'm seeing. This may be just because of an edit. I don't know. So this is just my point of view, and it's uh, uh, from a place of constructivism. We see Alyssa and Josiah. They have Haystack, and we also see Mark and Brett at Woodstack. And doesn't Brett look adorable with his little backpack on? If you just put some lederhosen on him, wouldn't he just look like the guy on the cliffhanger game from The Price is Right? That goes up and yodels. He looks adorable, doesn't he? Um, and Mark says that he's a one grocery trip kind of guy, which I think that most people are now like that nowadays, especially if you online order and you can just like order anything. Because I know I sometimes do it if I'm doing like a big order. I did it before Christmas when I didn't want to leave the house for obvious reasons. But I'm here and there with that. But sometimes I do like to go out. Sometimes you need to window shop. So Jonathan, he's still complaining that they made a bad call. And listen, Josiah, they stay calm and they get it. And Jonathan keeps saying he's having the worst luck on this entire race. Like this race, they've had just the worst luck. Really, it's just like it's mainly been like the last three legs. So you're saying like the legs that you won were bad? I'm just saying. Teams are tired next and must make their way to the Savancy Church. Make one foot there to get the next clue. Warning, double U-turn ahead. Now, when I first watched it, I'm like, why are these gates open automatically? For dramatic effect. I'm like, I know they don't have automatic gates there. So I can't do it. And then I noticed the string, the rope at the bottom. I'm like, production trying to fool me. I see your string there trying to be dramatic and try and fool me. I see your production. Anyway, Phil says this is the critical moment to establish dominance. Yeah, that's not going to happen, let me tell you. And then we go back to Jonathan and still complaining. And we see Mark and Brett. They're doing their first loading and they get 116.5 kilograms, which I think is the most anyone did in one take. Well done. Good. That's really good. Also here, I want you to take a photographic memory of the woodchucker here. Because this is not maybe the last episode we see him. We've seen a press picture coming up for next week. We might see him again. Possibly. In another spooky coincidence. Who knows? Anyway, Han and Holden, they can't find the library, which allows for Melinda and Erica to pass them. And they move up to Vornage's haystack because whenever there's anything with a physical task, and like Melinda always chooses the opposite, mainly for Melinda. I don't know if Melinda is still injured because remember in leg two she said she had an injury. I don't know if she's still injured, but because remember she couldn't really run. I don't know about that. Anyway, we then go back to Jack and Carson, and they're still lost. And I like how they keep up. We're going like just more like 20-second chunks of Jack and Carson being lost because that means there's less time for me to have a panic attack. Because like me being stressed of others can give myself a panic attack, and so I'm happy I got them in small chunks because that was less time to give myself a panic attack. Honestly, because I would have. Unless she finally finds the basis so Jonathan can stop complaining now, thank God. And Alyssa and Josiah, they get to the U-turn ball first, and they decide not to U-turn. And they say, oh, we're the first, but we decide not to U-turn to keep the blood off our hands. Now, I'm going to talk about my decision in I'll Do It My Way, but my thing is here. The final 7. They usually won't do, they might do a U-turn again, possibly up to final 5. But I don't think that they'll do another U-turn again this season, especially because they want all these like different surprises each leg. So I'm thinking here, for U-turn, this is your chance to move. Now, they don't know where Jack and Carson is. So I was shocked because they said, oh, we're first. So I'm thinking that should have obvious to go for Jack and Carson. I think they wouldn't have wanted to go for Jonathan and Anna because they're sort of someone who I'm not about because there's someone to lead, and maybe the other task will still keep them ahead because they know some of the back teams would take a bit longer. So that might be good strategy, might be not strategy, but we'll get to more in a minute. But they're told that teams must now drive to Schnetz's farm to get the next clue, and Han and Holden, they finally find the library. And then we go back to Mark and Brett, and Mark keeps on coming like, come on, babe. And I think at this point, Brett had dropped some word, and he was like, give me a second, babe. Like, just give me a second to put the word back on. And I'm so with Brett here. Like, but, like, you tell me something, and then give me actual time to do it. Like, just give me chance, okay? We then have Anna. She says it's interesting that they didn't get U-turned, and they then also decide not to U-turn, and which I find interesting as well because for someone very competitive, I would have thought they might U-turn, but they don't. And Mark and Brett, they passed Woodstack with wood to spare after 2 trips. But then for Jonathan, the day doesn't get any better because he's parked in the ditch and he can't get out. And so Mark and Brett, they come to help for a moment. Aren't they darlings? They're so brilliant, aren't they? and even the locals come out of their houses to help. Like they bring branches under and like pieces like of flat wood to help gain traction, but this to no avail. And so then, like, what we're going to do, Anna's crying, we go to commercial. And when we come back, everything's fine because the local comes and tows them out using a rope. See, we know when they go to some dramatic happens in commercial, it usually is corrected itself by the time we come back. And I know a few people were asking about why there was no replacement car given. It's because a replacement car is only given if there's something wrong with a car that wasn't at the fault of a team. So, for example, if like the car breaks down or there's something wrong with the engine or so something mechanically wrong with the car that the teams did not inflict themselves, that like it wasn't their fault, and so they have to bring out the replacement car. That's but this time Jonathan drove in the ditch. That was their fault, so they can't get the replacement car. Mark and Brett, they choose not to U-turn, and they want to let the back teams just fight out, which I'm a bit surprised because, I know they love the drama. And so they could have caused a bit of drama here, but they didn't. And I will tell you that the fans, during the live viewing, the fans were livid at this point. They were not happy. They were like, team after team, like, U-turning, and we were like, seriously? They are not U-turning. But guess what? They get even more mad very soon. You'll find out why. Holden, he does harm to park in the designated area, and that it can't get as more designated as it could get. And they then switched to Jonathan Arna still. This was a point where the car was still stuck, which I thought was very shady boot. Production very shady with editing this episode, let me tell you. Nick and Mike, they've caught up and they heading towards Snack. And with Holden says that they chose to stick with their guns and put his arms up, like trying to show his muscles here. Going with a more physical strength task and going with Woodstack. But they only get 71 kilos on their first job off. Erica and Melinda, they're at Haystack, and Erica finds a dead gecko in the stack. I'm trying not to heave as much as Erica did in that moment, let me tell you. Listen, Jazar, they're first to survive the roadblock, and we are introduced to Narenka at 102 years old. Feels interesting. She does the Phil thumbs up. Isn't she precious? See, I think the final memory challenge should be of the iconic NPCs from each episode. So like a few weeks ago, we've had the sumo guy. We have had, I think, maybe the ninja guys who didn't talk. And then I know I missed episode 1. Maybe the pixel from episode 1, like episode 4. What was episode 4? That was Indonesia 1. Who could have been the NPC from Indonesia 1? I'm trying to think. That maybe the ATV guys. Oh no, it's Rice Lady. Rice Lady. How could I have forgotten about Rice Lady? Oh, she was so iconic, Rice Lady. She was so iconic. It left my mind because she was that iconic. Too iconic to be in the same level as me. She's so above me. Then in Indonesia 2, it would have been the dog. Actually, no, it wouldn't be. It would have been Counting Lady. Point, good. Pointing Coconut Lady. That would have been but I do love the dog as well. Then last week, I would say it was between the Wiz Khalifa or Chef Christophe or Jack and Carson's taxi driver, which he loved the camera and was definitely there for the airtime. So the roadblock clue is who's ready to follow up, and teams must milk a sheep for half a litre of milk, and then they have to eat a bowl of traditional Bulgarian yogurt to get the next clue. And Alyssa, Mark, Carson, Melinda, Holden, and Anna are doing this roadblock. And like Alyssa's doing this and she's having a fun time. Nick and Mike, we go back to Nick and Mike, and they get 98.5 kilograms on their first sunlight, which is pretty good, and they're halfway through. And so Alyssa is so excited. She gets a clue here. They're told to now head to the pit stop at Ellen Pelin. The last team check-in will be eliminated. And Holden they've got to make one more trip in Woodstack, and Listen and Josiah, they're heading to the pit stop, and Jack and Carson have not even arrived at the apple task yet. My stress levels, let me tell you. So Mark arrives, and Mark chooses to do this roadblock, and so like it evens out the roadblock count, but also he thinks like he's gonna fill a hole like in the ground. I sort of get, but like Winters, he wants to fill her up, and you're on a farm, it's something to do with animals, right? And so he's not all about touching others. Mark is not here for the others, and I'm sorry, Mark here. No, ma'am. But Mark changed his tune version. Nick and Mike, they're just 1 kilogram off, but they do quickly get it as they get their clue. And Melinda, she finds her bracelet, so now it's a foot race to the U-turn board. But Melinda and Erica get there first. As a hen, they're saying like, "Oh, they're deciding to U-turn Nick and Mike," because at this point, Melinda and Erica think they're one of the last teams. I think at this point, they believe that Hun and Holden had already finished the task, and so it was like because Nick and Mike came later, that Nick and Mike are the only teams behind them, and so that's why they U-turn Nick and Mike. But so they U-turn Nick and Mike, and then they instantly forget because they see in the boxes like 4 more clues, and so they instantly apologize to Nick and Mike, and we see this first like they are so like because they like Nick and Mike, and they feel so bad to have U-turned them. So then Nick and Mike then in turn they want to stay safe from elimination. So it's a good move here. Han and Holden, they were just mind them, so they have U-turn it. And even as the vampires are like, we're sorry, but we got U-turn, so we've had to U-turn you. I'm sorry, it's just like the race. And like on Han, they take it in their stride here. Now, I need to mention this here. I need to teach the team something. Okay, so one of the main things that everyone's been upset about, the fans, are the use of the U-turn board here. It's now my first ever tutorial on how to use the U-turn board correctly. Now, if you're watching the YouTube version, I will display some correct images of a complete example of how the U-turn should correctly be presented. And so the person or the team that is getting U-turned is signified by the bigger picture. The team who is giving the U-turn is presented with the smaller picture. So why did they teams do it the wrong way around? Why? And why did production allow this? This is an error that's no ma'am, unforgivable. Like, did the production not think we would notice? And didn't Nick and Mike, apparently they're fans of the show, they know this. Like, did they not think this was an error? Didn't they? I'm sorry, this is just unforgivable, and this needs to be corrected. I want an official statement on this. Anyway, Mark is now enjoying the roadblock now. He thought he'd have a problem milking something. I'm just gonna leave that there. Like there's so many things in my head that I want to say right now, but I'm just gonna move on. I'm just gonna leave that there. But Nevenka, she says that. By the way, I love how Nevenka and I think it's like the granddaughter. I love their interactions. I love how they're going back fun. And Nevenka, I love how she keeps commenting when the teams are eating. I love that. She says that the yogurt is extra, and I'm like, just like Mark, because Mark's a little bit extra as well. We didn't see Jonathan. He's excited about the robot, even though Anna's doing it. And he's excited when Anna starts getting some milk out. He's just all hyped up again now, and so he asks Anna if she can do it any faster, and she's like, no. And then he's just back to being unhappy that they were passed by 2 teams. Well, I will say, slightly your fault, Jonathan, for parking in a ditch. Just saying. List and Josiah check in first and win a 5-night trip to Morocco. Nick and Mike, they believe it's now just down to them and Han Holden. Oh, I face so wrong. Melinda and Erica, they got lost as well. They're 30 kilometers in the wrong direction towards the roadblock, which allows Han Holden to catch up a little bit in a minute. We then get Jack and Carson. They finally find their clue in the library, and Nick and Mike, they've gone through all the haystacks and have not found the bracelet. The struggle bus is here for them, and Holden finds the bracelet. And so now Nick and Mike are starting to slightly give up hope here. We're going to keep going until the eliminator comes. And we then get Mark and Vet checking in third, Jonathan and checking in third, and Erica thinks them now being lost is a bit of karma for them using the U-turn. And Holden is not coping well with this roadblock. He's having to milk the ship, and that milk is getting everywhere, let me tell you. It is all over him. These transitions, Nick and Mike, they're so detour, and Jack Carson, they're getting to the detour. And what in the Windows Media Maker transitions is happening in this scene? Like, they're cutting between the two, but these like transitions, like what in the Windows 98? Let me tell you. Anyway, Nick and Mike, they consider taking a penalty, which apparently I believe is 8 hours for a detour, which I think should be a little less because it was a U-turn, so they already did theirs a U-turn, so like they didn't have the choice to switch, they've had to do this task. So I think it should be a little bit less minimum, but then Jack and Carson show up and their hope is restored. Jack and Carson, they're gooped, gagged, and floored seeing Nick and Mike still there. And that is what fire in them, knowing that their race is still alive. And Carson's like, come on, this is for $1 million. And so the boys start at Haystack, but after seeing how much Nick and Mike are struggling at Haystack, they decided to switch towards Stack, which Nick and Mike saying was a good choice. Back to the roadblock and the check lady. She seems very relaxed. That Holden's asking for him. I think he has to wash his hands, but then like she goes and asks. I think maybe like the husband or the assistant inside. Like she's like, "Can you get a napkin?" Like, how can you be like that? He's covered in milk. Honestly, it's all over him. We see Erica. She's saying that she feels horrible about Utah, Nick, and Mike, and they're hoping they survive it. And we go back to the detour where Jack, he is struggling with a wheelbarrow, but they're giving him the big motivational music. It's not sort of like the Rocky music, but it's like motivational music. And Jack's like, he's like, I'm feeling like Quasimodo. Quasimodo, you better do. I had to. Anytime anyone mentions Quasimodo, I have to do that. This is the part where he has the backpack on. And like a lot of teams struggle with the Woodstock task. We see Han and Holden, they check in fourth. Nick and Mike, they keep searching in the hay in the opposite direction, and the camera pans down to where it is. So again, shady boots. By the way, there's like 5 minutes left in this episode, and 2 teams are still at the detour. So we're like, what is going to happen here? But then we see Jack and Carson, they finish Woodstock. And they believe they for sure are getting U-turned, for sure, 100%. Because I remember the other week they thought they were going to get U-turned, and the most likely way if it wasn't for the whole Scott and Laurie thing that happened in the map. So they thought for sure that they were getting U-turned, but no, they see that they didn't get U-turned, and they're in tears of joy. They cannot believe it. Let me tell you, they cannot believe that they just got this reprieve here, which I think could have been different if the lead teams would have used the U-turn. I'm going to put that out there. We then get Melinda and Erica, they check in fifth. Nick and Mike, they see Jack and Carson leave, and they are starting to feel defeated here, but they don't give up. And also, apparently, at one point, vets receive medical attention on heat. We know they got lots of water bottles. We know production keep that all around. And we see like a montage of Carson Jack. The rest they got Carson doing the roadblock. And like I want to know about his interactions with Nevenka, the grandma, during the roadblock and how he felt about the roadblock. And they check in sixth, which leads to the inevitable. The eliminator comes out and eliminates Nick and Mike. Oh, but a super fan team who tried so much to win the race to be eliminated by Phil on the course to be eliminated. It's heartbreaking. Oh, it sucks. And I do feel for them, and it's such a shame to see them go. I will be eulogising them very shortly, but now it's time for I'll do it my way. I'll talk about the choices that I would have made in this leg now. I want to first talk about since the first self-driving leg. I want to talk about what I would have done first. Now, I would have looked at where it is first and found a route before leaving the parking structure. Because I felt like teams were too busy trying to get out of the parking structure and then find it on the map before leaving. So that's what I would have done first, taking a bit more time to find it on the map. So I would have known where to go, and I would have been able to navigate there because my partner would have been able, would have had to drive here. So that's what I felt. I because I feel like I'm good at navigating, so I feel that's the best of how I would have worked best with navigating than having the pressure of possibly missing a turn and still haven't found it yet. We then get to the detour, which was haystack or woodstack. I would have got with woodstack. And I think some teams mentioned, Hay on this race is a downfall. And we've got deja vu here. Hay sent another team home. It wasn't bad as Lena and Christie, but it sent a team home. So it is unfortunate to see them go like that. But I would have gone for that, but also what Mark and Bet said about the hay being itchy. And I know, I think Erica was starting to feel it a little bit. Like, I'm not here for that life. No, I am. Then we come to the U-turn decision now. For me, if I got to the U-turn board quite early, and I knew, because in recent seasons when they've done U-turns, they like to keep it like 2 a season. And we've always had the first one with the vote, so the second one will come up now. They're not. It's like coming to the end of the season. Like, they're not going to have another one. So I like to cause a bit of chaos and a bit of drama, and like wake up and say I've chosen chaos today, and wanted to cause a little bit of drama. So I would have U-turned. And who would I have U-turned? I don't know. I think I might have turned Alyssa and Josiah just to get that little bit of an extra boost. I think I wouldn't have gone for Jonathan and Anna. They were having sort of a bad enough day as it is, and Mark and Brett are good. But I would remember I said a few weeks ago that I would do U-turn them. But I feel like with Alyssa and Josiah, since the last time the U-turn happened a few weeks ago, I feel like they've grown much stronger and are much more of a threat now. So I think I would have gone for them as for the U-turn, which I think is a bit interesting. And then we get to the roadblock. I would let my partner do this one. Yeah, I would have let my partner do this one. I'd have had to, because I would have done a few at this point. So I would have had to step back at this point and have a relax from Roblox for a while. But that is, I'll do it my way for this week. So when we come back, I will eulogize Nick and Mike. Also, a little peek at next week, and I will go over a news article that's a very important news article that's come out this week about Australia season 9 that's just finished filming. I do want to mention and talk about, and I'll do that right after this. Hey, fellow race fans. I know you are the same as me and love talking about Amazing Race. And if you want to get something off your chest or want to ask any Amazing Race question, no matter what it is, you can send me it in the comments or send me an email at checkinchatpodcast@gmail.com and I might answer it in a future podcast. It's now time for We Were Rooting for You. We were all rooting for you. This is the segment of the show where I eulogize the eliminated team, and this week is Nick and Mike. Now, Nick and Mike, and they sort of knew from the start that they were bound to fall. I think because even from the very first leg, they nearly got eliminated in leg one. Mark and Larry went. They were them. It was a foot race between them, Courtney, Jasmine, and Mark and Larry. So they very nearly went home. So they knew that it wasn't going to be as smooth as they first thought it was going to be. And, each leg, they kept up that positive mindset. Like, we want to get first today. We want to do well today. And we knew it was never going to happen because something went wrong in their mindset. And they do learn from their mistakes. We saw that. But it was just like something new kept on coming up. And unfortunately, in this leg, they just couldn't find that. It's a needle in the haystack, which is also heartbreaking. And it's such a shame to see them go because as a team, I generally like them. Like they're more of a philosophical team, which they're all about these quite motivational things, and that I sort of don't fully understand what they're saying. But I like them, enjoy to watch them. They slightly bickers at times, but we expect that from teams, especially from sibling teams. But they're really positive and motivating each other at all times. And I like to see on the show. I still don't know, like, because remember Phil said they were one of his all-time favorite teams. Remember when he said that? I don't get where, like, why? Like, what point is all-time favorite team? Is it because like I know Phil is like very like loves like his philosophical mottos, so is it because like they're very similar to his values? But like apart from that, I don't get why they could be one of his all-time favorite teams. But I also like to have it like, oh, here's the eliminator, um, when he comes up to them. But they are super fan teams, and to be eliminated this way is heartbreaking. Would they have survived the next leg? Possibly not. I think they would have gone within the next two legs, honestly. I think from their track record, they'd be bound to fall at some point. And within the next one or two legs, they would have gone. That's been honest there. And would they have won? No. I'm sorry, boys. I know they would love to have won, but I don't think, especially because of how strong the other teams are, I don't think it would have been in the cards this season. But we'd love to see them back. I think if there's like another unfinished business season, I think there'll be a good like filled with value for them to come back, and I think that would be a good choice. Like I wouldn't mind that. So it is a shame to see them go, and now we're only down 16s next left. And next week we're going around Sofia again. We're in the city this time, and we see them. But this is from the press pictures that have been released officially. So we know that there's task where they're in the water doing a traditional ritual in the water. They have to grab something, and then there's a decoding task in which I think stumbles up some teams, and I think they have to then find like a kiosk or something. And we have a traditional dancing roadblock, which we've known about for a while. We also, as has been mentioned a lot all season long, we finally get the fire walking express pass task, which I believe like it looks like listeners are the only people attempting it. That's what it just looks like to me. And it was teased in the press release a few weeks ago that one team's going to make a critical mistake. What could it be? I don't know who it could be. So it's going to be very interesting to see how next week pans out. And it looks like Jack and Carson might catch up to your teams. So I'm very interested to see how what the difference was in the end between Alyssa and Josiah checking in and Jack and Carson checking in. I want to see next up. I think that'd be very interesting. So that is it for the US this week. I just want to quickly finish off talking about Australia season 9 7th edition because that has finished filming, and this is not a spoiler because it's not officially confirmed. But so Ant Middleton and his brother Dan are part of the season. That is officially confirmed. But many outlets are reporting this week that they got kicked out and disqualified, ejected from the race because of an incident that happened during the pit stop in which they used some quite inappropriate language towards another team, which we believe to be Luke and Sassy. Scott likes to be called Sassy, which we believe to be quite a use of homophobic language. Some other teams, I believe, so Brendan and Lenny were witness to this. So we believe from that point that's the reason why they allegedly potentially got kicked off in the pool. And I can say in the pool because we've seen pictures of them starting in the pool, so I can say that. So a lot of outlets are reporting that in Australia. So I just want to talk to her, and if that is the case, I think it's perfectly correct that they got kicked off. If that is the case, I think production made the right call there, and apparently that allegedly then impacted teams, and I think they talked about it for the rest of filming, allegedly. But because it's sort of not an outright spoiler, because we don't know everything that happened, and because it's also happened at the pit stop, I do want to mention it here. Because I felt like it's something that had to be, I wanted to mention because it was something that's a big hot topic right now. But that is it for this week's edition of the podcast. I know it's over already. If you want to leave me a like and subscribe on YouTube, that'd be very much appreciated. Also, comment in the comment section. Tell me what you're thinking. And then also, if you're on the audio version, leave me a 5-star review. And if you want to leave me any feedback, send it over to checkandchatpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you guys next week. Good night.